Welcome to We're Libertarians Daily Podcast. I am your host, Hody Johns, and I have with me Erica Denise Payne. Erica, how's it going today?
Going good. How are you?
Doing great. We've been friends for a while. It's our first time actually having a live interaction. I'd say face-to-face, but you're still through the computer, so I still have that sense of I can say whatever I want without getting smacked.
I don't condone violence.
Oh, you nap believer.
But we are going to see each other soon in person, so.
Oh, so I better tone down exactly how wild I decided to go.
You're not free yet.
Right. So the camping trip will be fun. But Erica is not only a friend of mine, but she is a pioneer in the subject of permaculture. So Erica, I believe that 99% of the people in this audience heard that word for the first time as it left my lips just now. So would you like to explain what permaculture is?
Sure. So to me, permaculture is like an umbrella term. It's a combination. It's an umbrella term for a bunch of different concepts. How you structure your garden, how you water your plants, how you compost. It's an umbrella term because there's so many different manifestations of how it happens. But essentially, it's a philosophy in gardening, and it goes against what Big Pharma is doing with monoculture, where everything is planted in rows. They use chemical fertilizers. They use water that, who knows where they get it. So it's just basically a philosophy for gardening that goes against the grain. And like I said, there's lots of manifestations of how this could go.
The way I've thought of it, it kind of goes with the grain. And it seems like the monoculture goes against the grain. In a natural way of speaking. I know what you were saying.
Really, that's correct. But I guess because everybody seems to get their food from big ag, it's like more farmers are more popular, I guess. Subsidized farmers are popular. So that's kind of why I said it the way I did. Sure. Is just, but this is, in my mind, it's against the grain because when you ask someone, okay, how do you plant a garden? They'll tell you, okay, you need to till the ground. You need to put seeds in the ground, cover it, put some chemical fertilizer over it and water it. But I don't know, it just seems very unnatural to me. And I don't know, there's better ways of doing things.
Sure. So let me make your argument important real quick. The first time I came across the word permaculture is when I was looking into farm subsidies and how we would turn this land in Florida, which was great for growing oranges, the best oranges in the world, and how they were using it to grow cotton instead. And cotton wasn't the ideal thing to grow there. It grew second-rate cotton and first-rate tomatoes. But because we paid the farmers their X amount of money, taxpayer money, of course, to grow cotton, they had to do things. Well, they said, well, Florida, oranges grow here and they're awesome and they'll grow naturally, but we're getting paid to grow a second-rate plant, and so we have to do these things to try and make that second-rate plant work. And so it was the monoculture guys against the permaculture guys. And just so right off the bat, I kind of at least had a healthy love of permaculture because I said, well, if we can grow the best oranges in the world, why would we settle for growing second-rate cotton when we could grow the best oranges in the world? That seems like there's a demand for that.
Yeah, that's a big issue is subsidies. The government wants a certain crop from a certain farm. And I think the worst part is that these farmers have these huge fields and like really large pieces of land that they're using for one crop, like just one. And it causes soil depletion. Like it's really bad for the environment, specifically that little patch of land that they're operating on. But if they were to grow many different crops within that small space, well, I say small, but it's like huge patches of land. Sure. But if they were to grow multiple different crops within that space and break outside of the traditional rows and I really think it would benefit the soil. They wouldn't have to use things like chemical fertilizers. They wouldn't have, like, so many problems would be solved if they would just switch it up and crop rotate, so that as you rotate your crops, the soil is benefited from each thing that the plant that you're growing has or can provide your soil. The most important part in my mind is soil health. You want to keep your soil alive and moving, and with lots of little creepy crawlies and worms and things like that. And you want to keep the nutrients level up. But that doesn't happen if you're growing one crop every year. It just gets depleted.
Sure. You brought up so much to unpack here, and I think challenged so much of the status quo, which is, again, you did correctly use the term against the grain. I was just making a joke. But, I think the visualization that I get from you, I remember my grandma's garden and it being beautiful. There's tomatoes and basil over here and onions over here, and there was a couple corn stalks that she planted. It was just like everything was there was so much involved, and it looked so pretty. And there was a lot going on versus what you're talking about. Again, that big agriculture, everything's a single row. So I'm going to ask some very specific questions, because I know how the skeptic, would come at it. I hear chemical, I don't automatically think of something negative. Right. So what makes the chemicals that they use in big ag worse than the natural creepy crawly dead bodies ecosystem that goes on there?
Well, first of all, they're unnecessary, because you can attain it naturally. There's no need to fertilize. It's unnecessary from the beginning. And then for me, I'm not like a huge expert on what, chemicals that are used, but to me, it just seems like, why would you use something when you could just get it from your plants and get it from the way that you structure your bed? Because I don't associate chemicals with bad. It's just, it depends on what they're using. And we'd have to go step by step through each chemical that they're using for me to kind of discern what is really bad. Like, I would be upset if I found something, like if I found that the farmer that was growing my local crops was using like some kind of hormone or something that's really toxic to us, I'd be really upset. And I have heard cases where certain farms use really toxic things in order to get a bigger plant or a bigger crop. And it seems unnecessary. You could attain that naturally. So yeah, I do, because I'm not super knowledgeable on exactly which chemical is being used by which farms and which crops and that sort of thing.
Sure. But it's an unnecessary step. It's like getting a vaccination for a disease that's eradicated. It's not that we're anti-vax. It's just, if the disease is already eradicated and it no longer exists in the world, why risk putting some aluminum into your body over it,
Right.
Might as well avoid it.
Yeah, it's super unnecessary. And there are ways through permaculture that we can address these issues. Like, you don't have to resort to something artificial. Like, why wouldn't we go with something natural? That's sort of my philosophy behind it.
Sure. So let's challenge tilling the field. Obviously, That's what we think of when we start off with. They till it, they dig, they plant their rows, versus you. And I've actually seen you. If you're watching this, you can actually see her blog listed right above her there. But theearthnerdanarchist.home.blog is where you can follow along with her and actually see her put this into action. But and so in yours, you've actually just added dirt on top of the existing soil. So just describe why you would do that.
So I do not. My preferred method or manifestation of permaculture is the no dig method. So I don't like tilling. I don't know why they call it no dig, but it's no tilling. We're not tilling the ground. Okay. So basically what we've done is we've laid down a layer of newspaper, which you don't really have to do. I think the dirt itself would, it will snuff the grass and the weeds and everything, but it does help to add an additional layer if you want to. We put a raised bed and then a layer of newspaper, the soil on top, And then the plan is, once we finish putting the plants in there, to put a layer of compost and a layer of straw on top. And all of those things will break down as time goes on and go into the soil, and it will draw worms and creepy crawlies and good bacteria that we want in our plants. So I like that method, but I mean, I like all the methods of permaculture. So that's just one I was like, oh, that's easy. Let's do that one.
So there's not like a single tyrannical consensus on permaculture then?
No. It's, you just find out what works for you and your plot of land, basically. You could go with hugelkultur. I always have trouble saying that, hugelkultur. That basically you dig a trench in the ground, you throw in some logs or like dead trees, prunings from those trees, and you cover it with dirt and then compost. And basically you do that in fall. And then throughout the winter, as those trees start to break down, they will suck up all the water they can find, and your plants can actually access them by the time you plant them. It can actually access the water from the trees inside your little pile. So
you're kind of creating an ecosystem in a sense here.
Right. You're controlling who gets what when. It's pretty cool.
Right. You're working with an existing ecosystem, I guess. Mm-hmm. It would be, but kind of accentuating it in a specific area. So let me ask this then, and this is just maybe as basic as it gets. How do you not have all these bad weeds leaching off of your crops?
Well, the thing is, for me and a lot of other people, I watch a lot of homesteaders on YouTube, and I'm not afraid of weeds because of the way that I like to plant. I like to keep plants close together. So there's not a whole lot of room for them. And what weeds do come up, there's maybe one or two like this. I like to pack them in there. So there's maybe room for one or two weeds to come up, maybe a dandelion or something.
And that's in your whole plot, like the one that you showed me or on your blog. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's a big area to only have one or two weeds.
Right. So, and maybe some grass comes up, but I'm not so much concerned about that because the main focus with that soil is going to be for the plants. Like, they're going to get the most water. They're going to get the most, everybody gets fertilized. So I'm not too concerned about weeds like you would be if you were monoculture gardening or just traditional gardening. I'm not super worried about it because you don't have to be. You don't really have to be. And something you can do that I like is called chop and drop. So you basically like you either pull up whatever weed there is and you just drop it. Like, you just leave it there, and it will bring nutrients back into the soil that it maybe stole from the other plant. So it's the dead weed is providing fertilizer and mulch for the plant you want to grow.
Sure. Well, I think The Lion King, if you're 5 years old, you're familiar with the circle of life a little bit, right? And that's kind of what you're using, is saying instead of having to go outside and feed it more of this external food, it's got food in there. I'm just going to allow that circle of life to kind of work.
Yeah. So you're kind of speeding it up because you're killing the weed, but it does provide whatever you put in there. I don't like using wood chips because it will bruise the stems of your plants, specifically like basil, tomatoes. Like, they have really sensitive stems. So the best thing I like to use is either chop and drop, like whatever weeds come in there, grass clippings. Straw is a really popular one because it provides nutrients as it breaks down. I mean, they all do, but something about straw is just like, it really works and it becomes a part of that soil and enriches it. So it's a really popular one because it's already dying. So maybe because it's already dying, people like it better. I don't know, but
yeah. Well, let's talk briefly about the politics of it a little bit. I know for me, I have a certain reason why I'm interested in permaculture. I can't lie and say that I've actively practiced it. You've recommended a couple books to me. I follow your blog. This is kind of why I'm getting into it. is I want to learn more about it because there's a freedom element associated with it. Being able to have your own food that is self-sustaining, that you don't have to pay for all the time, gets you off of a big agricultural system that the government wants you to depend on. And so if you can have a food source, even if it's just some food, start there. And for me, I started with herbs. So, and so this is my actual gardening experience. I won't lie and say it was permaculture, although my next one will be. We're hitting the springtime here, and so I'm excited to do some more planting. But herbs, and I was scared at first. I just didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. But as soon as I started, they sprouted real quick. I mean, we're talking all of the seeds I planted were up above the, I guess cresting the ground. There's probably some complex green term for that, but blossoming or whatever within a month. Yeah. And then I got to harvest them within the month after that. I mean, they were just such healthy little guys. We actually, I've got my basil plant, and we used him for some for some pasta today.
Nice.
Yeah, and so and he's great because I trim his leaves, but there's actually little leaves that grow where you trim the leaves off. So it kind of tells you when you can trim. And so that's basil I don't have to buy from the store. Now, the funny thing is this whole thing started off because my Walmart next to me constantly runs out of them. I constantly don't have herbs, and I cook all the time, and I cook with herbs all the time. I think we've talked about it before. I love Mediterranean food, and that's it's very herby. And
very aromatic food.
Right, and it adds so much flavor. And so when it's like, oh, you just do your tzatziki without dill, I'm like,
you can't do that.
Right. No way. That's not possible. I'm not going to do that. So for me, like, it's just been a very liberating position in order to say, like, I know where I can get my herbs from consistently. Now, the next step, obviously, would be growing more of those, those staples, the tomatoes and the corn and everything like that. But this is one of those things that just the reason that I find permaculture to be necessary, or at least worth considering when you're considering a life of liberty. Did you want to comment on anything I said or add more?
Well, I agree with you. I think first of all, I think herbs is a great place to start because herbs are expensive. Like if you go into the grocery store and try to buy them, they're ridiculous.
And they're not fresh, which is the point of an herb. They're not fresh. Sorry to interrupt, but I just thought of that.
No, it's true. And if I wanted dry herbs, you can grow them and dry them yourself. They're super easy. All you do is take a little, those sandwich bags, the paper ones, or you can even use a grocery bag, like a paper grocery bag, and you just leave them in there, crumple it up, and they'll dry out right there. Or you can hang them upside down, and it's so easy to dry them. And it's like, I can do this for $1 for a pack of seeds. Whereas if you go to the store, you're paying like $5 for a little glass jar of, herbs you had no control over making. And there's tax added on to that. Like the cost alone is worth doing it yourself.
And they grow like weeds.
Yeah, they grow so fast.
Like you will be so sick of it just planting a handful of seeds. You'll be like, I have too many herbs now.
Especially rosemary. Like, when I lived in Augusta, Georgia, my mom had this huge rosemary bush. It was enormous. I was like shocked at how big it was, but we used it so frequently because she also likes the sort of Mediterranean style food, lots of pastas and stuff like that. And we like gyros. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're speaking my language, but yeah, the gyros I can attest to all that. Well, so where's I guess how would you recommend people get involved? Where should we start permaculture? Should we start by trying it out? Should we start by reading a book? Should we start by following you? Where's a good place for the novices? And I guess not even just where we start, but what would you say is the progression? How should we start and end?
I would start with whatever feels best. Honestly, if you're bold enough to start, really, it's not that hard. Permaculture is very low maintenance in my experience. It's just a lot of, paying attention to the weather, making sure, like your plants will tell you when they need water. So, it's pretty easy. You're more than welcome to follow me on my blog if you want to, but I also recommend, I can post a list of books that I've given to Hody. And YouTube is a great resource too. Like I can add a list of YouTube channels. That's how I came about permaculture. Excuse me. I follow this blog called Suburban Homestead. Changed my life forever. He calls it polyculture, which is the same thing. But his garden is so beautiful and lush. And he does that same chop and drop method and the no dig method. And he has a front yard garden, which in some places is illegal, which I'm salty about. I'm salty about it, but it is
as you
illegal.
should be. As you should be.
Right. I think that's disgusting. And
Why? Can you help me?
I have no idea. It's probably an HOA thing. Okay, I'm very anti HOA, and they're like they want everything to look corporate and perfect, and what
is more perfect than unlimited amounts of food and herbs in front of somebody's house?
Right?
They're pretty.
Right. That's so cool. And so I follow another guy. His name is Jim Kowaleski, and he doesn't have a channel of his own that I know of, but he is on one of the channels I'll recommend. I'll put it in the comments. But he has property in Costa Rica, and they don't care. They're like, do what you want with your garden. So he has his entire front yard is nothing but edible plants. The whole property is nothing but edible plants. But as soon as you drive up to his driveway, everything is edible as far as you can see. Mm. And his neighbors have actually reached out to him and been like, hey, can you do this for us too? And he does. He gardens the whole street, everybody's front yard. And it's so amazing to watch. Like, he's so knowledgeable. And I just learned so much from when he guest stars on the channel that I watch. And again, I'll post it in the comments, but it's amazing to watch. And he's so humble and willing to share information and his experience and things like that. And it's really inspiring to me to see that. So I kind of
in Costa Rica, you're kind of dealing with that's the Northern Triangle. You're dealing with a lot of food problems and food shortages, as well as banana republics and puppet governments and all kinds of problems there. And so I imagine that's just, I can absolutely see why his neighbors asked if you would do that for me as well, because they're in a rough place as far as food goes.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, and I guess that's my last point, is it's really self-protectionism as well. I just say I would like to live, and I would like to control that. I think we so often, and we talked about this on the podcast the other day, but that when you trust somebody else to do the magic part for you, when you say, I don't know how this steak got to my plate, I'm just going to assume it's magic. I paid this guy $20. That you just want as few magic portions as possible. And I think that permaculture absolutely helps cut down on the magician work that goes into growing plants. You think you need a corporate giant to do it for you. You really don't.
It's so easy. You really don't.
You don't even need a yard. You can have a windowsill. And I got herbs for days on my windowsill.
Yeah. I have green onions growing on my windowsill.
Oh, and fresh green onions are the best.
They're the best. They're so good in salads and stuff like that. Like, it's even if you don't want to do if you didn't want to start from seed with everything, there are also methods to regrow produce you buy at the store. I bought those green onions from Safeway. So because we're going to put them in the garden. But so we bought, instead of growing them from seed, you can actually propagate a lot of plants like lettuce, just stick it in some water and it will start to grow roots, and you can put it in the ground and keep chopping little lettuce leaves off and just stuff like that. There's ways to propagate plants that you buy in the store if you're not comfortable growing completely from seed. But I really do want to encourage people to grow from seed and try it out and see what you think. Or, if you need an example, you're more than welcome to follow me. You're more than welcome to check out some really good YouTubers, read some books about it. It's really something because I use the term agorist to describe my, I guess, apolitical affiliation. The label I like is agorism. And one of those solutions is to get off of the government and off of the subsidized farms. We want to move away from that and start providing for ourselves. If we're going to live without a government, if that's ever going to be possible, or even if the government gets smaller, whatever, we're going to need a way to provide food for ourselves. And this is a great way to do it. It's very efficient. It's very easy. And I want to show people how easy it is, you know?
Yeah. That's very noble. No, if you're wondering what agorism is, I've had Nick Irwin, David Valentine on this show before talking about it. So just feel free to look up that episode, dear listener. Eric, is there anything that you feel that you would like to address more at the moment that's just burning? We say, oh, we didn't get to it. Now's your chance.
I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Right. I mean, maybe throwing out some extra ideas like manifestations. There are, if you want some keywords to Google,
manifestation's a really big word. Help me out with that.
Oh, like ways that this could be executed. So,
okay. I'm a theologian, and so when I think of manifestations, I start thinking of deities.
No, like ways that you could execute it would be like hugelkulture. You could do no dig method. You can do potager gardens is really popular in France, where you combine like beautiful flowers and plants that are just really aesthetically pleasing. If you combine that with vegetable gardening, they actually benefit each other very well and can adjust nutrients levels so that they both benefit really a good bit. So looking into things like using gray water. I just read earlier about this guy that uses gray water. It's like, I believe it's his shower, the water that comes out after he showers or whatever, that water gets used on the plants. And
yeah, you got to use a special soap for it. I actually have used a gray water shower before, but
yeah, it's pretty interesting how you can reuse water, because I was looking into what are they called, those houses, I can't remember, but I can see it in my head, but they're those houses that are super sustainable, and I believe they're made like cob houses, and they're really popular. I'll post in the comments what it's called.
Sure.
But it's this specific type of house, and they use the water that comes from that house. They can use it like 4 or 5 different uses. So anything that comes out of the shower gets used on this garden bed, and then it gets what drains off of the soil in this indoor garden bed gets used on the outdoor garden bed, and then that garden bed, and they use it forever. And it's really interesting to me, and I don't believe they have any sort of special filtration system. It's just, it falls down. They collect rainwater, it goes to the shower, it goes to the toilet, it goes to the garden. Mm-hmm. And it's really neat, and it saves water, it gets the job done. I'm about it.
Yeah, and I think it's scary because you see the big gardens and you're scared of it, but you don't need a big one to do it on a very small scale. You know, if you're just trying to feed yourself and your family, you can do it in a windowsill and a small patch of land. I mean, you really don't, it doesn't require an awful lot, and it's not very invasive. So while I think people like me, when I first hear about it, are scared to try, because you just say, oh, this sounds difficult. This is going to be a lot of work. I'm going to have to spend $800 at Home Depot, and then I'm going to have, and it's like, oh man, like you really, you know, if you have a windowsill, you can start, and then you can keep, and then if you want to keep going, you can keep going. But it really is as small as just sustaining yourself, medium size just sustaining your family, and then if you really want to get large, then go ahead and get large. But there's no pressure. That's not necessarily the end game. You know,
right.
You don't have to be afraid of getting that far and then just be like, well, I guess I'm going to garden for my whole life. You know, it's pretty simple.
Well, even if it helps, you know, you can start with conventional gardening methods. If you've never gardened before, you can start with conventional gardening methods. Get your feet wet with gardening and getting your hands dirty, and just make little switches in how you do things. So maybe one gardening season, you're going to switch up where you get your water from. Maybe the next one, you switch up how you structure the bed, Maybe the next one you switch out what kind of mulch you're using. So you can even do it in a slow transition if you need to, just to make it more comfortable. And you can play around with things like hydroponics. That's where I started. My grandparents, I was introduced to gardening from my grandparents. They did the conventional rows and, tilling and chemical fertilizers and things like that. And they had a beautiful garden. But that's what got me used to getting my hands dirty and, being around a garden in general. It will help a lot. So if you need to start with a conventional gardening method, start there and slowly work your way into a permaculture sort of structure.
Yeah,
the more you learn, the more excited you get.
Yeah, and it is exciting. Like there's a sense of fulfillment and everything. I actually did the hydroponics for the first time this year, just to survive the winter. We're in Utah, and so things get a little frosty outside.
Yeah.
But, even on my sill, we have dill and the basil I told you about, and and parsley, and all those are just hydroponics, and they're really easy. And even in just one plant, you get enough for a meal every. I don't want to claim weekly, but about weekly on most of them. You can get a meal out of them, so it's pretty impressive. Yeah. Cool. Well, we're gonna wrap up now. Something we do on We're Libertarians, we always give the guests just a final word. So, any final words from you?
Well, I hope you guys are more interested in checking out permaculture, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here to help, and you can check out my blog if you want to. It's Earth Nerd Anarchist, and
the Earth
Nerd Anarchist. Yeah. So you're more than welcome to check that out. I post every Sunday at 1, and minus last week because I had the flu.
Yeah, but we got 2 this week, so
yeah,
you made up for it.
Yeah, I try to make it worth it. So, but yeah, you're more than welcome to come check out my blog. Also, I'll post those YouTube channels and the books that I recommend down below. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here to help.
Awesome. Erica, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show and to meet you in person. Go permaculture, go. I guess that's about my final words. This is something I'm a novice on, and this is why I brought the expert on the show. And so I'd love to give you some extensive final words. But I would just say, for me, just take the magic out of your life. Try it out. You will be surprised.
Agreed.
I always felt like it would be difficult, and my picture of gardening was seeing people struggle with it. And then after practicing it, and your first couple times, you don't realize a few things. You learn about your yard or something that grows better in your area specifically, or you learn about Utah and how the cold happens. And so starting planting things in September maybe isn't your best bet, but you learn and you progress, and you really get into, it's really a better product, and it really takes no work. And for me, I cook all the time, and so obviously it's valuable for me to never have to go to Walmart for herbs ever again.
Right.
But even if you only do it sometimes, you just want to say, hey, this calls for dill. Well, I'm going to try some fresh dill. Dude, there's nothing like it, and it really is going to hype it up. It's going to make it that much better. Even if you don't plan on using it yourself, you say, I don't make anything. You can sell it for way, way cheaper than what Walmart sells it, and still make a profit off of it. I mean, there's really no end. So just try it out, guys. Liberate yourselves, liberate your brains, get involved in some permaculture. Erica's told how you can find her, and she's a delight to talk to. She posts very philosophical questions and very open philosophical questions. So if you are in the mood for a deep conversation, she's a good one to follow.
Thank you.
Of course. Again, donate on Patreon if you like the show. That's how we keep alive, everybody. Patreon.com/WeAreLibertarians. theearthnerdanarchist.home.blog. And we will talk to you later.